Hey guys, this is Lori with LM's Crafty Creations, and I am here to share a tutorial with you for my second album for the July Craftology box using the Echo Park Summer Fun collection. Great little collection. This is a chunky little mini album, and I just love how it turned out. So let's get started with this one. This album measures about, what did I say, 6 inches by 6 3/4 or something. Um, and let's start with the base pages. So for the base pages, you're going to need 6 pieces cut at 5 1/4 by 6 1/4, and then 6 pieces cut at 5 1/4 by 7 1/4. You're going to score on the 7 1/4 inch side at 1/2 inch on each end. And then of course you're going to fold on your score lines and burnish. I've already made all of my other base pages, so I'll just make one with you guys. And then I'm going to add my glue, and I like to do it on just one side first, and then glue it down, and then do the other side, because I have a method to my madness. I usually end up using too much glue, and there it is, right there. I have to wipe it away. Okay, so here are our base pages, and I have all 6 of mine right here. I'm going to start with one I didn't just glue down. So for page number 1, and the way I did it is page 1 is the front, page 2 is the back, and then we go to page 3 and then page 4. So that's how the instructions work. My measurements are always in the comments box of the video, so check that out so you can cut everything and score everything ahead of time and work with me as I do this. So page 1 has a large pocket and a flap. So the large pocket measures 6 1/4 by 5 1/4. You're going to score on the 6 1/4 inch side at 1/2 inch on each end, and then on the 5 1/4 inch side at 1/2 inch. And then as soon as I find my scissors, we're going to miter these corners here. And then fold on the score lines and burnish. And then I'm going to glue this down right onto this base page. And then we're going to take our 4 3/4 inch by 4 1/4 inch flap, and you're going to score on the 4 3/4 inch side at 1/2 inch and fold on that score line and burnish. And then we're just going to glue that right at the top of the pocket. And I'm going to put glue on the outside of the flap. And I'm going to turn mine upside down so I can get it even with the flap. I try to get an even space on all sides, but I'm not super great at getting things even. Hold on, guys. Just a second. Alright, so there's page 1. Let's flip it over and do page 2. Just has 2 simple flaps. And these are also 4 1/4 by 4 3/4. Score on the 4 3/4 inch side at 1/2 inch. And then I need to reference the book here. I'm going to put the first flap inside the pocket towards the top. So I'm going to put the glue on the inside of the flap. And just go right up to that score line, but not over it. And then I'm going to take the next one and put glue. And then I'm going to put it right at the bottom of the base page, on top, not inside the pocket. Okay, so now we have 2 flaps. Alright, now let's go on to page 3. Let me set this one aside somewhere. Okay, for page 3, we're going to have 2 belly bands, and you're going to cut those at 1 1/2 inches by 7 1/4 inches. You're going to score on the 7 1/4 inch side at 1/2 inch on each end. And then fold on your score lines and burnish. And what I did is I just kind of guesstimated. So I'm going to glue the first one down. I did about 1/2 inch from the edge. So that's what I'm going to do for the first one. I'm just going to look and see and measure about 1/2 inch and get it even and stick it down. Okay, so there's my first one. And my second one, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to do 1/2 inch from this edge. And just make sure you burnish it really well. Okay, so there's the 2 belly bands. Now that's it for that page. I'm going to flip it over and do page 4. And this one has a flap and then 2 smaller flaps. So cut your larger flap at 4 3/4 by 6 1/4, and then your 2 smaller flaps at 4 3/4 by 4 1/4. On your larger flap, you want to score on the 4 3/4 inch side at 1/2 inch. Fold on your score lines and burnish. You will want to miter your corners on this flap. And then add glue to the inside. And stick it down. And we're sticking it down on the left-hand side. Oh, excuse me. I don't mean to yawn on camera. Okay, for these smaller flaps, we're going to do just like we did on the other page. You're going to score on the 4 3/4 inch side at 1/2 inch on both flaps. You're going to stick the first flap on the inside of the base page pocket. And then I'm going to put the glue on the outside of the other flap, and we're going to stick it down at the bottom on top of the base page. And that's it. So now we are on to page 5, new base page. And for this one, it's a stacked pocket. So you're going to cut one pocket at 2 1/2 by 6 1/4, score on the 6 1/4 inch side at 1/2 inch on each end, and then score on the 2 1/2 inch side at 1/2 inch. Miter your corners, and then fold on your score lines and burnish. And then we're going to stick this pocket down first. So add your glue or your tape or whatever adhesive you like to use. And then stick it down at the very bottom of the base page. For the next one, we cut it a little differently. This one is cut at 3 inches by 6 1/4. Score on the 3 inch side at 1 inch, and then on the 6 1/4 inch side at 1/2 inch at each end. And then you come up with this pattern here. That's what it looks like. So what we're going to do is we're going to miter right here where this first score line is. See, I'm going to cut that way. And then I'm also going to turn it, and I'm going to cut it a diagonal up to the corner again. And this is what I come up with. Okay? So again, I'm going to cut on the long side, the 1 inch side, at a diagonal right up to that score line. And then I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And then this is what I get. Okay? So now we have two flaps that we're going to fold inward and burnish, the smaller flaps. And we have a piece that looks like this. So go ahead and add your glue or tape to the small flaps, and then stick this longer part inside the previous pocket that we placed on the page, and it should line up perfectly with that score line, and stick it down. Okay, now we have our stacked pocket. So on page 6, turn that one page over, and we're going to have a flap and a pocket on page 6. So let's do the pocket first. So you're going to cut your pocket at 2 1/2 inches by 6 1/4, and you're going to score on the 6 1/4 inch side at 1/2 inch on each end, and then on the 2 1/2 inch side at 1/2 inch. I'm going to miter my corners, and then I'm going to fold on my score lines and burnish. I'm going to glue this right down on the bottom of the base page. Whoops. Then I'm going to take the flap, which is cut at 4 3/4 by 6 1/4, score on the 4 3/4 inch side at 1/2 inch, fold on your score line and burnish, and then let's go ahead and miter those corners. And you're going to put your glue on the inside of the flap, and you're going to stick it on the inside right hand side of the base page, just like this. Be careful not to go over the score line. Okay. Now that is it for that page. Let's go ahead and grab for page 7. Is it 7? Another base page. And yes, for page 7, we have 2 flaps, and one of the flaps has a small pocket on it that holds the other flap down. So let's start with the 2 flaps. They are cut just like the others at 4 3/4 by 4 1/4. Score on the 4 3/4 inch side at 1/2 inch. Fold on your score lines and burnish for both flaps. We're going to put 1 flap on the top of the base page and 1 flap on the bottom. So I'm going to start with the bottom one. I'm going to add my glue to the outside of the hinge, and I'm just going to line it up and try to get it right there in the middle of the base page on the bottom. And then burnish. And I'm going to keep this flap folded upwards because I'm going to use it to line up my top flap. They should be perfectly in line together. So I'm going to add my glue, and I'm going to turn it upside down because it's easier for me that way. And I'm going to stick it down and make sure it lines up with the bottom flap. I don't know if you really can see that since it's black cardstock. Okay, so there's my top flap and then my bottom flap. On my bottom flap, we're going to add a pocket, and this pocket is cut to 2 inches by 5 1/4, and you're going to score on the 2 inch side at 1/2 inch and on the 5 1/4 inch side at 1/2 inch on each end, and then miter the corners, and then fold on your score lines and burnish. And I'm just going to add this little pocket to the bottom of this flap here. So add your glue. And just line it up right there at the bottom. I got too much glue. Got a little carried away. Glue happy. So when you close these 2 flaps and you put your little photo mat in, it will keep them shut. So flip that page over. Now we are on page 8, and page 8 is very simple. It just has a large flap on the right hand side. You're going to cut this at 4 3/4 by 6 1/4. Score on the 4 3/4 inch side at 1/2 inch. And let's go ahead and miter these corners again because we are going to stick it on the inside of the base page pocket. So put the glue on the inside. And on the right hand side. Okay, and that is it for this page. So let's go to page 9, another base page. This one has a flip up at the top and a pocket on the bottom. So we're going to do the pocket first. So the pocket is cut at 3 1/4 by 6 1/4. Score on the 3 1/4 inch side at 1/2 inch, and then on the 6 1/4 inch side at 1/2 inch on each end. And then let's miter our corners, fold on the score lines, and burnish. And then we're going to add this pocket to the bottom of the page. Whoops, it's moving around on me. And then we've cut our flap to 6 3/4 by 4 1/4 this time, and then you're going to score on the 6 3/4 inch side at 1/2 inch, and then fold on your score line and burnish. Now I'm turning my page upside down so the pocket's at the top, and I'm going to add this flap right at the top of the page, centering it on the page. Now I didn't use any magnets in this album, so and all of my flaps seem to stay closed pretty well because they're pretty simple anyway. Since they're only one layer, you don't really need the magnets on this one. So this one flips up, and then you have a pocket right here. Okay, for page 10, turn that page over, and this one just is simple, and it just has the 2 flaps on the side, just like we've done previously for a couple of the other pages. So you're going to cut them at 4 3/4 inches by 4 1/4, and score on the 4 3/4 inch side at 1/2 inch. Again, I'm going to add my glue. My glue's getting a little gunky at the top. Sorry about that. I want it to get clogged. And I'm going to add my glue on the inside of this one and stick it on the inside of the base page. And then I'm going to add my glue on the outside of this flap. And that's it for those two. Now we need another base page. This is our final one. And this one is going to require a little bit of measuring. So grab your pencil and your ruler. Where's my ruler? Right here. So let's do the flap first because that's the easiest part. So this flap is cut a little differently. It's going to be cut at 5 5/8 by 6 1/4. It's a large flap. You're going to score on the 5 5/8 of an inch side at 1/2 inch. Let's burnish that and then miter the corners here. Whoops. And we are going to put glue on the inside of the hinge. And we're going to stick this on the inside right-hand side of the base page. And then for the pocket that's going to go here, we're going to do a little bit of measuring and cutting. So let's put our base page aside. I've got a little mess going on here. You're going to cut the pocket at, let's see, 5 1/4 by 6 1/8. And then you're going to score on the 5 1/4 inch side at 1/2 inch, and then on the 6 1/8 inch side at 1/2 inch as well. Okay, so just score like an L right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and miter the corner here on this pocket, just on this one side where the score lines meet. And I'm going to fold in the score lines and burnish, so that way it's not included in the measurements I'm about to give you. So this is what you should have with your hinges right here. So take your ruler and at the top of the page measure over 1.5 inches and mark the top. So here I've got the top of my page. Here is 1.5 inches. I'm going to place a small mark right there. So let's see if you can see that. There's my mark at 1.5 inches. Now I'm going to flip this and I'm going to do it the same on the other side that doesn't have a hinge. Okay? So again, 1.5 inches. So see, I have a mark up here at 1.5 inches, and then I have one, a tiny one right here at 1.5 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler and draw a line and connect those two, and then I'm going to cut that off to make my pocket. Okay, so there's my line on my page. I'm just going to take my scissors and cut it. Okay, this is trash. And here's your pocket. So when you go to mat this pocket, what you're going to do is cut your piece 1/4 inch smaller than we just did. So it's going to be 4.5 inches by 5 3/8 of an inch is what your mat is going to be. And then what you'll do is you'll take your, let me show you since I have it here open. So here's my pattern paper. You're going to take your piece of pattern paper that you've cut at whatever I just said, because I don't have it written down, 4.5 by 5 3/8, and then you're going to measure over to 1.25 inches and make your mark, and then go back down to the other side and measure over 1.25 inches and make your mark, and then you're going to connect them together just like you did your pocket and cut it, and that will give you perfect matting for this pocket. Okay, I hope that's clear. Excuse me. So now we're going to add our pocket to the inside left-hand side of this page. So your right hand flap should be open, in the open position, and you're going to attach this to the left hand side of the base page, just like this. I like these angled pockets because, for one, it seems like you can get a lot in them, and two, they're just cute, just to have a different shape. Okay, and there it is. It will not go all the way up to the top, and that's okay. That's the way that I cut it. So there's that page. Now flip this one over and we'll do our last page. So I'm going to put that to the side for a second. What you're going to need is one piece cut at, let's see, 4 1/4 by 6 3/4. Score on the 6 3/4 inch side at 1/2 inch. This is going to be a top flap. So fold on that score line and burnish. And I'm going to leave that folded in for right now. Okay? Take your other two flaps, and they should both measure 4 3/4 by 6 1/4. Score on the 4 3/4 inch side at 1/2 inch, and then fold on your score lines and burnish for both of these, and you do not have to miter these corners. What we're going to do is take both of these flaps and we're going to stick them in together. So you should have a hinge on each side, okay? Just kind of stack them up like that. So there's a hinge here. We're going to add our glue on the outside. And then what we're going to do is stick them right on top of this flap, okay? So I'm going to add my glue to both at the same time. Try to get this in frame so y'all can see. And I'm going to stick it on the top. Make sure that I get it lined up. Okay, so you should be able to open it this way, and you have room for 3 4x6 photos on the inside, plus one here, so there's 4, and then you could put a 5th one here, or you could decorate it with pattern paper like I did on my album. So to keep this closed, since this is the only thing that needs a closure, you could add a magnet if you wanted to, but I did a ribbon closure, so what I did is I added my ribbon right here. I glued it down right here at the back, and then I brought it around and tied it there. Okay, so then we're going to add this whole piece to the bottom of the base page at the top. And we're going to center it. So I'm going to turn my base page upside down and try to get this straight. Okay, it's as straight as it's going to get. And I think it's a little off, so oh well. I'm a little over on one side than I am the other, but you know. So there's that page, and we are done with our base pages. So the only other thing, which I haven't even added this to my album yet, by now y'all have seen it, of course, because you've seen the completed album before I finish it. But I'm going to add a waterfall on this side, probably on the front and the back of the album. Looks like I got a little carried away with my burnishing right there. Just to add more photos to it. So I've already cut a piece. I just did one. At 5 inches by 6 inches for my base waterfall. You may have a different measurement because I haven't measured how many flaps will fit on this yet. I'm just going to start adding flaps, but you'll already have that in your instructions down below. So the waterfall flaps are cut at 4 3/4 by 5 inches, and I scored on the 4 3/4 inch side at 1/2 inch. So I'm just going to take these and start adding them to the base here. And if you've never done a waterfall before, you add the glue to the flap, and then I'm going to start at the very top here and stick it down. And then I'm just going to keep going until I get to the end and I can't have any more flaps. So you take your next piece and you're going to glue it down right underneath where this one ends. I have to have a base page to add my waterfall pieces to, otherwise it's all, some people just add it directly to the back of the book, but I'm not that talented. I just would mess it all up entirely and it would be so crooked. And having this piece of paper to line it up on the sides and at the top really does make a huge difference. It really helps, because it is so easy to get this off. Okay. Okay, it looks like I'm about the end of my page, but I'm wondering if I can add one more, or if I should just leave it. Should probably just leave it. Let's look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add pattern paper on the back of this as soon as it probably will be a solid color because I've used all my pattern paper. And then I'm going to add it right here. I think I want one more flap though, so this is going to overhang here. Is that not going to work? Let's see. I don't know. If I add this at the bottom here, it's just going to be a little bit over. I'm going to go for it. So now I know to cut this base page a little bit larger. But y'all of course already know this because I'm going to fix the instructions before I post the video. Okay, so your mat should actually measure 6 1/4 by 5 inches. And you should get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 flaps on your mat that will go on the back of your album. And I think I want another one over here. So I'm going to do 2. And I think I'm going to tie them with this ribbon if I have enough. I also wanted to use the pink flamingo ribbon that came in our kit, so maybe I'll do that. I really don't want to use a magnet. So yeah, that sounds good to me. Okay, so there is the tutorial on my Echo Park Second Summer Fun album, my chunky little mini here. And I did 3/8 of an inch gussets on mine. You can choose to do larger, but just remember you'll have to expand your spine. Okay, so the chipboard measurements are down below, and I can't think of any other measurements that you're going to need. So I guess we're done, guys. So thanks for watching this tutorial, and I'd love to see your creations. Please post them on either the Scrapbookers of Country Craft Creations Facebook page, or to my page. I have a Facebook page and I'll link you down below for that, or post them to both. That'd be great. So make sure that I see them. So have a great day. Thanks for watching.